Welcome back to The Explainer. So up until now, we've spent a ton of time looking inward, right? We've been analyzing our own value chains, hunting down internal waste, and tweaking those internal processes. But today we're shifting our gaze. We're pivoting from looking inward to exploring the absolute power of looking outward.
Think about it like this. What if the real secret to optimizing your company's costs and, really skyrocketing your efficiency actually means looking completely outside your own walls? Well, that is exactly what we're exploring today. We're going to look at the immense power of utilizing external reference points to uncover those hidden performance gaps and ultimately adopt world-class processes.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll cover the power of looking outside. Then, move into the 4 types of benchmarking. After that, we'll break down the benchmarking process steps, tackle a CMA exam practice challenge together, and finally, wrap up with a summary and our key takeaways.
All right, part 1, the power of looking outside and defining the core concept.
Okay, let's dive right in and anchor our terminology early on. What is benchmarking? Well, it's the continuous process of measuring an organization's products, services, or processes against the absolute highest standards, whether those standards are inside your own company or outside in the broader marketplace. The absolutely crucial point here is that benchmarking is not just a one-off project. No, it's an ongoing, relentless commitment to finding and adopting world-class processes to drive your own efficiency.
Moving on to Section 2, the 4 types of benchmarking, and knowing your options.
Now, for those of you gearing up for the CMA exam, it is absolutely critical that you can quickly differentiate between these 4 primary types. First up, we've got internal benchmarking. This is when you compare similar operations or departments within the exact same company. Think of, say, a retail chain manager comparing the inventory turnover of their top-performing store against their worst-performing store. The data here is incredibly easy to get because, well, you already own it, but it won't necessarily give you a true market advantage. On the flip side, we have competitive benchmarking. This is where you compare your processes directly against your direct competitors. Think Ford benchmarking their assembly times against General Motors. This gives you incredibly direct strategic insights, but as you might guess, direct competitors rarely want to just hand over their secret recipes, right?
Building on that into broader comparisons, we have functional benchmarking versus generic benchmarking. Functional benchmarking compares your processes to companies within your same broader industry but who aren't your direct competitors. A good example would be a budget airline comparing its seat cleaning turnaround time with a luxury airline. It's highly relevant data. But then we have generic benchmarking. This means comparing similar business processes across entirely different industries. And let me tell you, this is where the real magic happens. This is the type of benchmarking that creates the most disruptive, truly innovative process breakthroughs.
To see what generic benchmarking looks like in the real world, imagine a hospital emergency room that desperately needs to figure out how to change patient bays faster. Instead of just looking at other hospitals, they study an absolute master of speed, a NASCAR pit crew. Seriously. They're analyzing a shared process, rapid turnaround, but across completely unrelated industries. If you are sitting for the exam, keep a sharp eye out for scenario questions where a company looks completely outside its industry to revolutionize a common workflow. That is your classic generic benchmarking, right there.
Next up, Section 3, the benchmarking process steps, creating a systematic framework.
Listen, benchmarking isn't just doing a casual web search to see what other people are up to. It requires a highly systematic approach to actually work. We use a chronological 4-step framework that the CMA curriculum really focuses on to execute benchmarking perfectly. Now, while some textbooks might vary slightly on the exact phrasing, the core chronological phases remain exactly the same: plan, source, analyze, and adapt. Let's break each of these down.
Step 1 is to plan. This phase is all about establishing your internal baselines and your goals. Before you ever look outside, you need to identify the specific process that needs improvement. You absolutely must establish your own internal metrics, understand your current performance, and clearly define exactly how you're going to measure success going forward.
Once you know exactly what you're measuring, you move to Step 2, source. This is the sourcing phase where you identify your benchmarking partners. You need to ask a very specific, highly targeted question here. Who does this specific process better than absolutely anyone else? You are seeking out the true leaders, the absolute masters of the workflow you want to improve, wherever they might be in the world.
After you've found your partner, it's time for Step 3, analyze. This is where you really roll up your sleeves. You gather the hard data, and you calculate the performance gaps between your organization and theirs. But it's not just about the raw numbers. You are identifying the specific best practices that are actually causing those superior results. You have to ask the deep, guiding questions during this step. Why exactly are they faster? How do they manage to keep their costs so much lower? What structural choices are they making that you aren't?
Finally, we reach step 4, adapt. And I really want to heavily emphasize that word, adapt. You do not just copy and paste their process into your business. It doesn't work like that. You must adapt those best practices to fit your own company's culture, your specific infrastructure, and your unique strategic goals. Recognizing the difference between blindly copying and strategically adapting is honestly perhaps the most critical semantic distinction you need to make to pass this section of the exam.
All right, section 4. Let's do a CMA exam practice challenge, the ultimate test.
Let's work through a real-world scenario together so we can build your confidence for test day. Okay, here it is. An electronics manufacturer wants to drastically reduce the cycle time of its order fulfillment process. To achieve this, the management team arranges a site visit to study the distribution and fulfillment operations of a leading online clothing retailer. So this scenario is an example of which type of benchmarking. Is it A, internal, B, competitive, C, generic, or D, functional? Take a second to process that.
All right, let's systematically guide ourselves through this using the process of elimination, just like we do on the actual exam. Option A, internal. Well, an electronics manufacturer and a clothing retailer are clearly not the same company, so that is incorrect. Option B, competitive. Are they direct competitors selling the same products? Definitely not. Option D, functional. Are they even in the same broad industry? No. Selling electronics is fundamentally different from selling apparel. That leaves us with option C, generic. Because they are studying a shared identical business process, order fulfillment, across entirely unrelated industries, generic benchmarking is our textbook winner. The secret here is simply identifying the relationship between the two entities.
And finally, section 5, summary and key takeaways. Time for mastery.
Let's do a quick rapid-fire review of the core principles to ensure this sticks with you completely. Here are your 3 final exam tips distilled down. First, benchmarking looks both inward and outward to establish a true baseline of operational excellence. Second, always remember that generic benchmarking, looking entirely outside your industry, is what yields the most disruptive, innovative breakthroughs. And third, the ultimate goal of all of this is identifying and adapting best practices, not just copying data blindly. Master these key distinctions, and I promise you will easily secure these points on your test.
Before we go, I want to leave you with one final, kind of provocative thought to really chew on. How can you look outside your own industry and apply generic benchmarking to disrupt and optimize your own daily workflows? Whether you're studying for an exam, managing a team, or, hey, even just running a household, sometimes the absolute best answers are found in the most unexpected places. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep up the great work, stay curious, and I will see you in the next one.